If you like this channel and what I do here, please help to support my work by checking out one of my books, available from Lulu Publishing and Amazon.com. Thank you. Hiya folks, welcome to Electric Media Madness. Carl James here, joined by Dan Ryan. How you doing, mate?
I'm okay.
Good. It's over. Season Picard. Season 2 of Star Trek Picard is over. It's done.
Yeah.
So we thought we'd better reward our loyal viewers. We're going to get into some interesting things. I'm going to get into a massive list. We've put together loads of notes, you and I, and we're going to share our notebook. We're going to go backwards and forwards and read out different things that we picked up through the season. We're not going to cover episodes 1, 2 and 3 because we've already covered them. We have videos available on the channel for people to watch. We know we have some people who watch these videos who don't watch the episodes, but they're interested in our take on it, aren't they? They've kind of given up on Star Trek now, but they're still interested in sort of the identity politics and the plot holes and the continuity, and there's loads of them. There really is. So we thought we'd be here forevermore reading out the plot synopsis of episodes 4 to 10. I'm going to do a quick, speedy rattle through and try and make it as fast as I can for those people who haven't watched it and aren't aware. If you have already seen the episode, skip this bit and then we'll go straight into what we think and some of the stuff that's going on with it. Picard and Agnes Jurati learn from the Borg Queen that the change in the timeline will happen in 3 days on April the 15th, 2024. Jurati learns of a location that Picard beams to and finds a young Guinan. Seven and Raffi search for Rios, who's now being held by ICE, to be sent by bus to a sanctuary district on the US border. Guinan leads Picard to a supervisor watcher alien who looks like his housekeeper Laris. Q tries to affect the timeline of an astronaut woman, planned to go on a Europa spaceflight mission, but his powers don't work. He clicks his fingers and nothing happens. The supervisor, who we know is called Talon now, tells Picard she's watching over the Europa astronaut, who we learn is Renee Picard, an ancestor of Jean-Luc Picard. Q meets Dr. Adam Soon, played by Brent Spiner, who's a disgraced geneticist who's looking to cure his daughter, Corey Soon, of an illness. Q gives Dr. Soon a vial of medicine that can help Corey in exchange for Dr. Soon's help in dealing with astronaut Renee Picard. Seven and Raffi rescue Rios from ICE custody. On La Serena, the Borg Queen lures a French gendarme officer to the ship, presumably to assimilate him, but Jurati intervenes with a shotgun. The wounded Borg Queen injects Jurati with Borg nanoprobes. Picard learns that astronaut Renee's destiny is to discover a sentient organism on Jupiter's moon of Io, so she's apparently essential to the mission, but it seems that she doesn't want to go on the mission because she keeps getting sad. The group learn that they can put Renee Picard's destiny back on track by infiltrating a pre-flight gala event. Jurati hacks the gala's guest list so they can all go to the event. We learn that Jurati now has a Borg Queen, Harvey. At the gala, Picard is confronted by Adam Soon. He alerts security about Picard and co over there. They need a distraction, so Jurati, now possessed by the Borg Queen, creates a power cut. Jurati gets on stage and sings a jazzy song and gets a rush of endorphins, apparently, which allows the Borg Queen to take full possession of her. Q, posing as Renee's therapist, keeps sending her text messages to make her more sad. She tries to do a bunk from the gala. Picard finds her and tells her that it's okay to be sad because his mommy was also sad. Dr. Soon sees them together and tries to run her over, but instead he just runs Picard over. Corey soon finds out that she is one of many clones created by Adam Soon. Picard is unconscious and taken to Teresa's clinic. Picard is seemingly unable to wake up because he's got a bad memory and he's stuck in a coma of some sort. Talon says that she can go into his mind to help him. Picard is trapped in his childhood memories. He and his mummy are being chased through the house by Daddy. Talon uncovers that mummy has got some mental health issues. It appears that Daddy Picard was overbearing because he was just trying to protect them. Picard wakes up. Talon is revealed as a Romulan, possibly Laris' ancestor. Picard wants to get to the bottom of Q's involvement in all this. He goes to visit a younger Guinan who says she can do this genie in a bottle type beer guzzling ritual thing to summon Q, but it doesn't work. Picard and Guinan are arrested by an FBI agent. The agent has footage of Picard beaming outside Guinan's bar. Rios brings Teresa and her son aboard La Serena, tells them he's from the future. Raffi and Seven learn about Jurati's Borg Queen situation. They track her down and learn that she's acting all edgy to make more endorphins so the Borg Queen consciousness can take her over and turn her into a fully able to assimilate Borg Queen. So Agent Wells tries to get Picard and Guinan to confess to being aliens while they're in custody. Guinan is visited by Q, who says he's dying and says humans are stuck in the past. Wells eventually reveals that he was visited by Vulcans on Earth as a child and gets Picard and Guinan released from custody just like that. Raffi and Seven find Jurati eating car and phone batteries. She attacks them and runs off. Corey learns more about her clone nature and the fact that she was one of several clones, and she gets help from Q and she leaves. Jurati Borg Queen tracks down Soon and asks him for his help in securing the Lacerina. He arranges for a squad of mercenaries to come that she somehow somewhat Borgifies. The Queen, Soon and soldiers beam to Lacerina. Picard and Talon, Raffi and Seven beam to the chateau. Jurati tries to reassert control over the Borg Queen. Seven and Raffi go back to the ship, even though they left the ship. Seven gets wounded. Rios helps Teresa and her son to get to safety. In the tunnels under the chateau, Picard has more visions and remembers that his mom hanged herself. Soon finds Picard and Talon, but Rios returns and saves them from Soon. He manages to escape. Jurati convinces the Borg Queen consciousness to change the entire nature of the Borg and become good. Jurati becomes the new Borg Queen. She heals Seven and then leaves everybody outside the chateau and flies off in the Lacerina to create a new Borg collective. The Borg Queen leaves a message for Picard. There must be two versions of Rene Picard. One to fly the Europa mission and one to die. Picard and Talon use a translocator, beamer, device type thing to get into Europa headquarters. Rios, Raffi and Seven get into Soon's house and learn he is at the Europa HQ. Soon has a backup plan. He's got 4 drones that will destroy the Europa rocket. Talon tells Rene that her life is in danger and she must trust her. Soon infects what he thinks is Rene with a fatal neurotoxin. It's actually Talon. Rios gets control of Dr. Soon's drones and takes them all out. Rene launches in the rocket. Soon's plan failed and he goes home and finds that his research is being removed from his computers, and it's Corey. She thinks all of his work has been destroyed, but Soon pulls out a folder named Project Khan. Wesley Crusher turns up and we learn that he and the Travellers are in charge of the Watchers. He recruits Corey into their ranks and they beam away. Q reveals that Picard's penance was to forgive himself. A load of old bollocks. Q sends everybody back to the correct future, but Rios stays with Teresa and her son. The remainders manage to return to the moment of the Borg anomaly incursion thing. Jurati Borg Queen is revealed, as is this huge anomaly. Dan's favourite subject, we'll come to that in a minute, that will destroy the sector if the Borg and Starfleet don't work together and stop it. We find out from Guinan that the organism that was found on Europa cleaned Earth's environment. Picard goes back to Laris. The end. Right then, so we've got lots of things to say about these episodes and this season. I've got several bones of contention, you have as well, lots of interesting points that we want to cover, but my principal main issue, the thing that really, really made me want to put my fist through the television, was episode 4, I think, is it? It's the scenes where we're first introduced to the young Guinan.
I think that was 4, yeah.
There's several things that are going on here with this, and it's probably going to be a bit of a rant, but we'll get into it anyway. So, two or three things here. Major continuity problems with the established canon of Star Trek. The other one is the necessity for why it was done. To have this scene where Guinan is basically just ranting about the state of the 21st century, doesn't she? That sort of stuff. So what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to read out what she actually says. I've chopped out some bits that aren't relevant. Yeah. But there was a socio-political statement here. This is identity politics and other things. That they really wanted this young Guinan to say all of this stuff. I mean, the writers love this stuff. We know, we've watched it enough in the show, haven't we? But this is basically what she says. Is so the young Guinan to Picard. You're a lot older than my usual thieves. So first of all, she's talking about how a bar's being constantly robbed all the time. Now, I mean, this is Los Angeles, so that probably is true. That probably does happen all the time. So we'll left them off the hook on that one. So. I don't know you, I don't want to know you, and I don't want to help. That was another thing that she says. Which is contradictory completely to the Guinan that we see in Time's Arrow in 1893, and the Guinan that we see in the future as well. So they're trying to argue that this time has made her different. Yeah. But we're going to prove that that's not the case. Yeah. So she says, this place, meaning 2024, is it that it's set?
Yes, yeah, it's 2024.
This place is a pressure cooker. You know, they're actually killing the planet. Truth, and this is another issue, this is about living in what they call the disinformation age, where people that speak truth are considered disinformationists, misinformationists. People that are supposed to be telling us the truth are full of shit. That's my perspective on that. So a lot of people I know that agree with me on that. A lot of people are clued into that. That is the way the world works. But the mainstream media wants you to think it's the other way round. Well, trust the media. Yeah. Anybody who questions the media is full of shit. They're not to be trusted.
Well, Biden did actually start a
department the KGB. Sorry, what's it called? The DGB. KGB.
Government. No, he started one like a week or so ago. The Department of Misinformation or something.
Department of Government Surveillance or something. I don't know. Basically just censoring everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
But censoring everything.
Oh no. I swear it's... Oh my god, what's it called in 1984? I'm pretty sure it's called the...
Ministry of Truth.
It's called the Ministry of Truth.
Yeah. Basically,
He actually called it the Ministry of Truth.
Yeah. So, I mean, people will maybe criticise us for going down a political rabbit hole here, but this is real stuff. And I'm going to point something out, actually, as well in a minute. When I've got through with this, I want to read out a quote from an excellent book called Amusing Ourselves to Death, but we'll come to that in a minute. So anyway, let's finish what she's actually said to you. So, they're actually killing the past. Truth is whatever you want it to be. Facts aren't even facts anymore. Well, facts are facts. There we go. A few folks have enough resources to fix all of the problems for the rest. That's actually true. But, and she says, but, they won't because their greatest fear is having less. Actually, let me put my finger there so I can continue that in there because I just want to make a point about that. Yes, there are a handful of people in the world who do control everything and have got the power to change things. They don't want to because they're in power. Yeah. Because we are the masses. They're like, a generous estimate will say there's a few thousand of them. And there's like almost 8 billion of us. They don't want that dynamic to change. No. Their power is based on us being controlled. So the oldest book in warfare, the oldest rule in the book of warfare is divide and conquer. That's why they're stirring up the race hate thing all the time. That's why they're stirring up the sexuality thing and the gender thing and the works. It's all about divisiveness, dividing society. They don't want people to... Because for the first thing of all, if everybody did actually start realising what was going on, they'd lynch them, the powers that be. I mean, there are plenty of people in the world that do know, but not enough. That is the problem. So saying that their greatest fear is having less, maybe their greatest fear is having less control over us, but it's not possessions. They just the system is set up to be controlled by them, and most people don't realise that. That's the problem. So anyway, yeah. So. And this, I mean, you could cover some of this in a minute because you've just looked at some stuff from Times Arrow again. So remind ourselves of that one. So they've got this tiny ball one tiny ball in the entire galaxy, and all this species wants to do is fight. You know who has the luxury of patience here? Someone who looks like you, meaning white man, old man Picard. That's what she's saying, and not like me, i.e., a black woman. That's basically what she's saying, isn't it? Yeah. That's what she's saying. The hatred here, it never ends. This century took off the hood, meaning people who wore hoods at one time. I won't go into that here. And put on a suit. You say change is coming. Well, it's too damn slow. The cost too high. Trust me, it ain't tipping soon. That's what she says. And she's crying and all the rest of it while this is going on. I was fucking furious. This was classic Kurtzman, Akiva Goldsman, all of them, political platforming. Yeah, there are great things you can say about the way things... Case in point is past tense. That two-parter of Deep Space Nine, set in the same time period, talks about immigration and how people are treated in society, people who are cast off as worthless in society. It makes some really powerful statements. Yeah. You and I have talked about the episode Far Beyond the Stars. Yeah.
We've talked about that a lot.
Yeah. And case in point, because I was watching recently, obviously while I haven't been well, I've been watching some old stuff, catching up on some old stuff and that, and I've been watching some old episodes, and I watched an episode of Enterprise called Stigma, which is the stigma attached to Vulcans doing mind melds at this point in history, which is another thing that's contradicted in Star Trek Picard Season 2, but we'll come to that in a bit. And Captain Archer says, we got rid of bigotry nearly a century ago. We're not afraid of diversity. We don't persecute, we embrace it. If you call yourselves enlightened, you have to accept people are different than you are. That sums up Star Trek. They don't say things like that now in Star Trek, do they? No. He just lays it out. And what about that episode... the one with Abraham Lincoln? I mean, a lot of people criticise that episode. Abraham Lincoln turns up on the bridge of the Enterprise and he sees Uhura and he goes, what a charming... I'm not going to use the word here. It begins with N. Yeah. And he goes, oh, I'm sorry. I'm paraphrasing the episode, of course, but he says, oh, I'm sorry. I know a lot of people who don't like that word. And she's like, no, it don't matter. I don't give a shit about words like that nowadays. We don't. We're all enlightened and we're beyond that crap. She doesn't care. Not offended, not in the slightest. Yeah. And people have argued, well, it was white writers that were writing it back then, and that's the reason why they were able to put that stuff in there. A black actor was hardly going to complain and say, oh, this is what I really want that character to say. Nichelle Nichols never had a problem with that line. Over the years in interviews, she said she thought that was great.
Would take power from the from the word.
Exactly. Yeah.
The more power given to it, the more it means.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's the problem with so much of what's going on now. People are imbuing these issues with power that they don't deserve. There is a relevant issue here that needs to be discussed, but not in this way.
Yeah.
It's not. You can't rant and shout and cry and all that kind of thing. You've got to be right. Let's be level-headed about this. Let's be calm. Let's realise that the world is being divided and conquered by a handful of people. And I tell you something else as well, a valid point. Those people that rule the world at the moment, they're not just one colour. They're not just one sex.
No.
They're from, you got your Saudis, your Chinese, Europeans, Americans. They're from all over the world. They're all ethnicities. There's male, female, that little cabal, that elite. It doesn't matter to them.
Yeah.
They were dividing us. So again, saying it's just anyway. That was my issue with all of this. It really made me angry. There's so much of it that I just and it's the continuity. Sorry, what was you going to say?
Well, you showed me some clips from Times Arrow.
Yeah, because you hadn't actually seen it.
I haven't seen it because I apparently only watch new Star Trek.
It's starting to seem that way, doesn't it? No, that's not true. Not because of preference. It's not for preference.
If you add all the episodes up together, I have watched more old than new. But of one particular series, I've probably seen more new Trek than anything else.
Yeah.
But yeah, you show me Times Arrow, and a lot of stuff is just like proper shitting on humanity, and Guinan defends
it's set in a really bad time period as well. You got slavery still going on to some degree in certain parts of America. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, and Guinan defends humanity.
Yeah.
And like
the same thing that she contradicts here with that tiny little unique, and Samuel Clemens is saying that, and what does she say?
She's just like,
diamond is a diamond.
Yeah, diamond is a. But then she lives through like way worse things than like current day.
World War II.
Yeah, World War II.
Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah. Stuff like that that's so much worse than anything that's happening in modern day now. And I mean, you see, like, she obviously would have stayed before he went back anyway, because she ends up on the Enterprise other than that. But she stays there through like Earth bombing itself in World War III.
World War III? Yeah, we don't know that for certain. I mean, that's not established. We assume that she...
You would have... But even if not that, so many were... when did you know when she first comes to Earth?
No, that's a difficult one, because we know that she's in the vicinity of Earth in Star Trek Generations.
Yeah.
In Kirk's time, when he briefly takes command of the Enterprise B.
Yeah.
When they rescue 150 survivors from the Lakul, the Alorians. So they're not that far away from Earth at that point, because the Borg have obliterated their homeworld. So yeah.
But anyway, basically she lived through a lot of terrible, terrible things, and being not white, she'd be subjected to some of those.
Absolutely, she would. Yeah, because she's certainly not going to tell them that she's an alien, and quite frankly, in those dark periods of history, it wouldn't have made any difference whether she was an alien or not.
They would have
just looked at her and said,
they'd have been like, "Yeah, you are an alien.
Your face doesn't fit, so you're in trouble." Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And
that would have been a valid point then.
Yeah.
For that point, any of those periods in time. Yeah.
I mean, and like now I don't know if like Obama was president, but we've had a black president in America and like that. So to say like now is the worst time in like the point where you'd give up on humans is.
Oh, I would argue that I could argue quite strongly actually that we're probably in the most enlightened period of human history that we've ever had.
Yeah.
I would. It's just far from perfect, and there's some people who are always going to be racist, homophobic, sexist. You're not going to change those people, but I would say they're very much the minority now.
Yeah,
the majority are the people who are c'est la vie. Life is the beauty of life is the diversity of it all, and that's meeting new people and different ways of living and different perspective on life and all that kind of thing. It's part of the wonder of it all. It's the journey of life. But to say, because I wrote that quote down from Samuel Clemens as well. He talks about that time period. He says, "I come from a time when men achieve power and wealth by standing on the backs of the poor, where prejudice and intolerance are commonplace, and power is an end unto itself." And Guinan's like got this gathering going on there, hasn't she? And she's got
it's very
men,
mixed
women,
race, gender,
there's
everything.
all kind of ethnicities there, you know. Yeah. And she's like, and she says about the diamond, you know, a diamond's still a diamond, even if it's one of countless diamonds, it still shines as brightly.
Yeah.
You know, so it doesn't track.
Yeah.
But a lot of things with this character in this show don't track. Before I just want to say, the reason why I pointed that out is because we've talked before about agendas. People argue the toss that there aren't agendas in the media, but there are. So before I move on from that, I just want to quickly mention this book. This is written in 1985, this issue was. And it's, let's see, you can see it there. Neil Postman, Amusing Ourselves to Death. And it's a fantastic book. Neil Postman worked in the media for years and years and years. He had massive amount of insight into it, and I've read the book many times, but I recently reread it, and I came across this quote which I've quoted many times in my research as well, but it sums it up perfectly. It's much later in the game now. Ignorance of the score is inexcusable. To be unaware that a technology, and he's talking about the media, to be unaware that a technology comes equipped with a program for social change, to maintain that technology is neutral, to make the assumption that technology is always a friend to culture, is, at this late hour, stupidity, plain and simple. I've always argued that it's not so much the technology, it's the people behind the technology, it's the agendas, what the technology is used for, that's the most dangerous thing. So, in and of itself, media technology is not inherently dangerous. It can be used for some very good and positive things.
Yeah, good things come out of it. I think people...
But he's right. To pretend that there are no agendas is ignorant. It is stupidity. And this show has an agenda.
Yeah.
This show has an agenda.
Yeah.
And it's a biased agenda. It's a disingenuous agenda. It's not a fair agenda. Because it's not. She goes on about how facts aren't truth. Truth is whatever you want it to be. That's what the writer's doing. They're creating a perspective of the world which is their truth. It's not objective truth. It's just their truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is... Yeah, I mean, a lot of people... If you went to America, you have... you got a Biden voter, you got a Trump voter, you ask them a question, they'll both 100% give you a different answer with a fact, and they'll think that is the truth.
Yeah. And the simple fact of the matter is as well, people say I'm political. I'm not. I'm so far beyond it. You know this about me for many years. My argument is that every politician is as bad as each other.
Yeah.
You can't give me an honest one. I don't have a political. I'm not a left, right, or anything. I deal with everything on a case by case basis, on an issue by issue basis, and I leave the politics out of it because politics was created to divide people, the same as all the rest of this is. It's about choosing tribes, left or right. The problem with this as well is it's kind of the whole Guinan thing is kind of tied up in massive continuity errors as well, because. As a lot of Star Trek fans pointed out, and we're probably going to be covering a lot of material that people have already covered on YouTube because we're catching up, whereas the people have had the advantage of being able to...
I imagine some people
so we're covering
have,
what most people have covered already. Yeah. But Terry Matalis, who's the co-showrunner and writer of season 2 Picard, he said that the events in 1893 with Guinan and Picard did not happen because of the outcome of the timeline... did not happen because the outcome of this timeline does not have a Federation and a Captain Picard who travelled back in time to 1893 to meet Guinan, but that actually turns out to be bullshit.
See now,
because in the last episode, she's from that timeline.
Yeah,
that timeline is the normal timeline.
See that would make sense. That would actually be an answer. But loads of other stuff throughout contradict it.
Yeah, exactly.
So if the other stuff didn't contradict it, yes. I mean, when I first saw the episode, you were like, that doesn't make sense, and I said exactly what that person said.
Yeah.
But then they contradict it.
I think it's two things: is they unravel it as the series goes on.
Yeah.
Plus, also, if you're a proper nerd geek like me, where Star Trek's concerned, you dyed in the wool know so much. I'm not saying I'm a walking encyclopedia, but I know a lot of Star Trek. So I remember a lot of stuff about it. So I oftentimes, not all the time, but oftentimes, I say, hang on a minute, what about that episode that says that? Star Trek continuity has never been perfect, even before the Kurtzman era. They've always made balls ups, but they've never been like, massive ones. Plot hole that you can fly a saucer section through it. There have been some, but
this season has
not
very
really.
much been that though.
Yeah.
Like the stuff in the last episode, I was watching it, I was like, hang on, what about that though? What about that? What about that?
Yeah. It's like we talked about the episode Q Who, the first Borg episode, Next Generation, where Q says to Guinan, we've had some dealings. He goes, those dealings were 2 centuries ago. This creature is dangerous, Picard. She's an imp, and where she goes, trouble always follows, and all that. And she goes, Guinan, is that what you call yourself now? In other words, the last time we met 2 centuries ago, you had a different name.
Yeah.
When Picard walks into the bar in 2024, and he goes, Guinan, and she goes, yeah. What? Did she call herself Guinan, then change her name, then go back to Guinan again? I don't know, maybe. But, put these little... I know, reward people.
No, but didn't you say there was another bit about the ability to...
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, it's in my encyclopedia.
Was.
It says that they, the writers, Ronald D. Moore and Brandon Braga of Generations now, that the Elorians gained not their ability to listen, that's part of their species, but their ability to perceive time differently. So, i.e. how Guinan perceives the alternate timeline in Yesterday's Enterprise. When she's...
But wasn't it about something where if something said in the future... Yeah.
So that would also kind of include that.
Yeah.
But those abilities were gained from their brief visit to the Nexus.
But she has them before then.
Exactly. She has this ability before she even went into the Nexus. That happens like 200 years later?
Yeah.
At least. Yeah, I don't know exactly when I'd have to look in my encyclopedia. That's something I don't know off the top of my head. But the events with the Enterprise B... when they rescued the 150 Elorians, all those 150 Elorians were temporarily phasing in and out of the Nexus as they were being beamed aboard.
And then Picard says something that she said to him in the future, and she's like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Like, how?
And again, case in point, there's the other continuities. We know, you've looked at the bits from Time to Arrow, she's met Picard in 1893.
Yes.
She knows who he is.
Yeah.
This Guinan in 2024 is not a Guinan from the future. She's a few years older, 130 years older than the one. It's the same Guinan from 1893. She should know him.
I guess 130 years, you forget a thing or two.
Yeah, I mean, but they're long lived. I mean, gee, if their memory's that bad and they live as long as they do, it's wonder they can fucking remember anybody. What's the name of my dog again? Dog. Come on, dog. I can't remember your name because I'm shit memory and 500 years old or whatever. So yeah, there's so much about this that's wrong. There's so much about this that is just if they somehow made that Guinan like an alternative timeline Guinan at the end, they might have been able to slither their way around that.
Yeah.
But it still wouldn't have slithered their way around her ability to go do this pukey time fracturing realisation thing.
Yeah. See, this kind of ties into the last episode a bit.
Yeah, because I've gone on way too long about this. So, but yeah. Well, I'll finish my point and you carry on about that. I'm jumping ahead a bit.
No,
it's absolutely fine. Honestly,
there's a lot of stuff where, like, surely time would change for, like, it's bullshit. It's like, oh, this was always meant to happen. Like, as if Q was always meant to send him back, try to mess it up.
Yeah,
they'd fix it, and then. Like the bullet holes in the chateau, they were there before.
Yeah. And incidentally, did they... presumably there's some kind of vague Borg technology left in those soldiers that they possessed.
Yeah.
Right? They're melted into the walls.
Yeah.
So, did nobody ever question who these people were that were half melted into the walls?
Picard has to go down with like a hammer and chisel and
get
them out.
I know people have argued that, well, he didn't see them till, I don't know, because he couldn't remember. I mean, that's another plot contrivance, a convenience. Maybe because he couldn't remember what happened with his mom down in those tunnels under that. Was why he couldn't remember that there was any bodies melted in the wall.
Maybe, yeah.
So, but it's very convenient, that is. A lot of this season is very convenient.
Yeah.
It's very convenient. Yeah.
A lot of it, I don't know, a lot of it just doesn't make sense. Especially the last episode. But
yeah. I think I mean, I've got my political thing out of the way.
Yeah.
I've got that main thing is that. I've got that out of the way. That was one of my biggest issues with this season, and I've got I've got my 10-15 minute rant out of the way and presented my case for that one.
Yeah.
So maybe we could go through some of these things that are just so don't work and things like that.
a big one is like what you were saying about the time sort of thing. Like, Rios stays behind in the past after.
Will that have any effect on... I mean, Guinan says all these things happen
because... He does a
of
lot of important things.
Yeah.
And he potentially guides her and the kid. I can't remember what the kid's name. The kid, like, saves the planet, basically. Were
they involved with that bacteria that they found in Europa to change the environment? Or
yeah, he ended up being one of Earth's
ain't going to do much good, because 20 years after that, there's nuclear war, so...
yeah.
So it wouldn't have done them that much good.
But, like, surely him being in the past, and he knows about future technologies and stuff, so...
And he also knows that there was a World War III. Everybody in human... Everybody knows it. You hear it talked about a lot in the series. Anybody starts talking about human history, they'll say, oh, there's some dark times, especially World War III in the middle of the 21st century when we nuked half the planet. You know? So he knows that's coming.
Yeah.
You know...
And he chooses to stay. Well, I suppose he dies before. But...
Well, the way he's smoking them cigars, maybe.
Well, now he dies in a bar fight.
Oh, that's true, actually. Yeah, he doesn't know that, does he? And that she said he was chomping on a cigar. And he was... Oh, God, yeah. I don't know, then. I don't know what to say, mate.
Yeah, early on, there's so much stuff where they're like, we can't leave any technology behind. No one can know anything about us.
Oh, yeah.
By the end of it, there's a few people who... Like, the FBI guy, he knows that they're from the future. He knows they've got alien technology. Well, what he thinks is alien technology. It's actually future technology. Then Rios takes them onto the ship, and like people see stuff. Like loads of people have had the comm badges.
Oh yeah, I've got that here. Have you noticed how many characters constantly dropping or losing their communicators?
Yeah,
especially when it's convenient for the plot. You know, it happens
so much.
It happens so much. Yeah. My other issue with technology is so inconsistent. Like I've got one here is there's a working replicator on La Serena because Rios replicates cake for Teresa's son. Yet Girardi walking about Los Angeles stealing car and phone batteries. Why didn't she just replicate some in the...
That's true, yeah.
You know, and a lot of people have picked up on that as well. People who I've seen people talking about it, and I mean, imagine a lot of what we're going to be covering, or people have already mentioned. But it was there in my notes right from the beginning. You know, it's why because they had to have her walking around Los Angeles doing... I mean, there's so much wrong with that bar scene.
Episode 6 and 7, I think, literally could not be in this. Like, they literally don't need to be in it at all.
No,
like,
that's right.
The gala thing, that episode, literally, like, all they needed to do was beam in and then talk to Renee.
Yeah.
And convince her to do it.
But again...
And then beam out, that was it.
There's another... It's not as bad as the Guinan thing, obviously, but there's an undercurrent of similar-ish kind of thing. It's more to do with gender than race or anything, ethnicity or anything like that. With Girardi and with Rene Picard as well. To some degree it's there with Raffi and Seven, but it's not anywhere near as bad as it is with those two characters. Rene Picard, who's like learned to sail a boat when she was 10, grandmaster at chess when she was 11, at 12, could speak 12 languages or something. I can't remember. I'm probably exaggerating. But the litany, the list was just, you know, she's like
she's an elite
the bestest
human.
ever, bestest ever, basically, like a Mikey Spot, you know, Michael Burnham sort of thing. And but she's so vulnerable because she's got this issue. You know, she's so. I'm not downplaying depression at all. I'm not. There's genuine situations in the world where people really suffer. They go through the gamut. You know, they go to horrible places in their life, and sometimes it ends very tragically for some people because they can't cope with what's happening to them. But again, like with the identity politics, people jump on these bandwagons of victimisation. They use it to their advantage so that they don't have to. There's a lot of people out there that don't have these problems, but they pretend that they do, or they over exaggerate something to just to take advantage of it, to use it to their advantage. And it's you know, you're getting into the snowflake territory then, aren't you, basically, with them sorts of people.
I mean, with Renee as well, like it's kind of just, it seems tacked on just to like have a reason for Q to be like her therapist or something.
Yeah, and it also is another excuse to dovetail it all into Picard's mom.
Yeah,
because it's a similar thing with her as well. It's a similar plot line with her.
it just.
I mean, I made light of it when I was going through the plot
Yeah.
fast and saying, "Oh, because they were sad, because of the sad." I'm not. Please, audience, people watching at home, don't misunderstand me. I'm not trivialising mental health issues or depression or anything like that at all, because there's a legitimate phenomenon going on, and there were a lot of people really, really suffer. But there's also a lot of people who just don't want to face normal living, and they just use it as an excuse to try and make life as easy for them, or to get out of things, or make excuses for things, or play the victim. There's a lot of people do that as well. And I think this, when you have plot lines that aren't handled sensitively, because I don't think they were handled sensitively in this.
Especially not Renee Picard.
Yeah, especially not. Yeah,
Picard's mother wasn't quite as bad.
And again, an older Star Trek episode would have handled this really, really well. There's a fantastic episode, and people will say, "Oh, well, it was a white man, so that doesn't count." But yeah, it is unfortunate that it is. But there's a brilliant episode of Deep Space Nine in season 4 called Hard Time, where O'Brien believes that he spent like 20, 30 years of his life locked in this prison cell for a crime that he didn't. I can't remember whether he did commit it or not now, actually. But it was an implanted memory. So he goes back to the station. It's only a few days later, and nothing's changed for everybody else. But for him, he's lived 30 years of his life in this horrible, horrible environment, being tortured and everything like that. And he puts a phaser to his head at the end. He's going to do himself in at the end. Yeah. That's one example. Another one, Chain of Command, where part 2, where Picard is I mean, this is Picard's story. Tortured by Gulma Dread, the Cardassian. You know, goes through the gamut. There are 4 lights. You know, he goes through the mill on that. You know, that is proper. You know, and people would say, "Oh, that's different because that's torture," but it's still trauma. It's still mental trauma.
It seems like in Picard,
good ways of handling it.
They tried to make nearly everyone have some sort of like mental health issue or something.
Do you know what I think the problem is with it? Sorry, I keep taking this up into weird directions, but I think there's so much that they're trying to hammer into this. They want to hammer in the race issue with Guinan. They want to hammer in the depression, mental health things and all that kind of thing with Renee. I mean, they touch on the LGBTQ thing with Raffi and Seven again at the end as well. So that's fine. That wasn't handled in any way that was it probably wasn't done for the right reasons. It's probably just done because they could put it there. But there was nothing about that you could look at and say, "Oh, yeah, fucking," you know. It's fine.
It was fine.
It's there. Yeah. So when it's done like that, if you're not preaching and banging the drum, just do it. Yeah. Just do it. Just put it there. Put it out there. You don't need to make a big psalm like I'm doing about it. You know. So there's a way of doing it. There's a way of doing it. Exactly. Yeah. And I've always said that there's a way of doing it. There's the immigration thing with Rios. There's the trauma of childhood, bad parenting, all that kind of thing with Picard. You know. There's again, that's a similar issue with Corey and Dr. Soon. You know, about bad parenting, all that kind of thing. You've got death and dying and all that. There's so many things that they're trying to be profound. And the more they're trying to be profound, the more they're missing every single beat of it. They keep missing it because there's so much that they're trying to jam in there that they just can't.
I think
they're not good writers either. That's another problem. So it's
especially with the mental health, they did it too much. Like half the characters had some sort of mental health. Yeah. If it had have just been his mom or just Renee, then it'd have been fine. But the fact that it's everyone, it kind of makes it seem like, oh, everyone's got some sort of problem. Yeah.
And there are some major, just to go on to continuity issues for a second with Picard's mom, there are some major problems with that because they kind of, I think they'd seen some stuff, so they thought they'd covered all their bases, because he says at the end, "Oh, for every now and again I still see my mom and I still drink tea and we have a chat and all that." That was alluding to the Star Trek Next Generation episode when One Has Gone Before, where they go into this weird dimensional realm out of space and time, and he sees because she's there in the corridor sitting at the table making tea, played by Herta Ware, I think was the actress that played her. Old mom Picard, you know, and she's, "Come and have a cup of tea, Picard, Jean-Luc," and all this kind of. And so they kind of covered that with that. Yeah. But that if what they're saying in the series now is true, that wasn't real. That she died, she hung herself, you know, at a relatively young age. But in Star Trek Generations, again, Star Trek Generations seems to be the one thing that they've not watched, because there's lots of things in that establish that it's just continuity. He's got a photo album, And in there, he's got a photograph of Etta Ware from the episode The Old Woman Picard. Now, did he just like get a photograph of an old woman that he thought looked like his mum, stuck it in his photograph album, and then thought, that's what my mum would have looked like when she was old? So when he has these visions of her, he sees her like this, and it's not even his mum. Right? That would be an explanation. But for all intents and purposes, it seems as though his mum did not die at a young age.
Yeah.
It's never fully confirmed that she didn't die at a young age, but it's every clue we're given in the series is that she did live to be a reasonably old age.
Oh, well, in this one, she didn't.
Because he has a photograph of her in his photo album, which means she must have lived to that age. Unless he's just a nutcase and took a photograph of a total stranger and pretended it was his mom. And another thing is, his photographs, because his brother, he finds out in Generations that his brother and his nephew, is his nephew? Yeah, die in the fire at the chateau in Generations. Because he gets really upset, doesn't he, in that one scene, because he's like, just found out my brother. Where's his brother in all these flashbacks? To his mum and dad?
Yeah, it's literally like it's just the three of them.
Yeah, it's like that's all the family is, just the three of them.
And she's like, I'm gonna run away. Like, we're gonna have a better life. We're gonna run away.
Robert? I mean, he's only a couple of years older than John Luke, but where the fuck is he? They tie him up because he was playing, so they tied him up and put him in a bedroom as well and locked him in there. There's so much discontinuity. I mean, he says, at least I kept my hair, Picard's dad. And you see the vision of him in Tapestry that Q conjures up, incidentally. He's pretty much bald.
Yeah.
So
there's, I can't remember what episode this was in.
It was towards the end.
It was towards the end.
I think it's the one I think you're thinking about.
Yeah. But Seven says she's not allowed into Starfleet, and she really fights for it, and Janeway fights for her.
Yeah.
And they don't let her in. Yeah. But Ichib gets let in. Fine.
Yeah, because she says it was because I was a Borg.
Yeah. Yeah. But they let
Ichib in. Yeah. And I mean, I think he was a lieutenant, wasn't he? Or certainly an ensign, I think he was a lieutenant, actually, yeah. Here's one. Here's another one for you. I mean, a lot of these are just plot holes, aren't they? Yeah. So, the FBI agent reads out a statement from that officer who was in that, when Rios was locked in that cage.
Oh, yeah.
So I've got it written down here. The ICE officer was able to make a word-perfect statement of everything Rios said to him in the holding cell about being from the future, etc. and all that. It was word-perfect, but the officer didn't even have a notepad.
See, now
I don't... perfect photographic memory for words or
See, I don't know why that'd even get jotted down, because he just laughed at him.
He laughed at him, yeah.
He was like, haha. Yeah, nice joke.
But he went and wrote it down afterwards.
But then he went and wrote it around and filed it.
And it was word perfect as well, because if you compare the two scenes together.
Yeah, talking about the FBI guy, the Vulcans in his childhood, they just like, you don't know what they're doing. They just randomly show up. They've got like it looks like some weird dig site.
It looks like some sort of mission. Exhibition sort of expedition. Yeah.
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 But you don't know who they are, why they're there.
It's never explained, is it?
No.
Unless I missed something, but I'm pretty sure that you didn't pick up on anything. I didn't. What that was about, I don't know. I mean, also the fact that they use transporters, and transporter technology was invented by humans. Vulcans didn't have it. And they tried to do a mind meld on him as well. Some Vulcans did do mind melds at that period in history, but it was almost taboo in Vulcan society. It wasn't until after the Enterprise era.
Maybe that's why it didn't work then.
Maybe that's why it didn't, yeah. But they didn't have transporter technology. Humans invented it in the 22nd century, so... Maybe
they're time travellers as well.
Yeah, but they didn't explain it, didn't they? Yeah. They didn't. I thought it had something to do with Talon, but she said, I'm not a time traveller.
Yeah.
She actually says, I hate time travellers, doesn't she, at one point?
Yeah.
That's a good point as well. That Romulan rifle that she's got is the same one that the Romulans used to attack Soji in Season 1.
Yeah.
In the future. It's the same prop. I know they're probably just using props that they had, saving a bit of money, but yeah. How did she get that weapon? She's not from the future, apparently, so...
Talking about props and stuff, though, there is some I do have to give this show. The production value is a lot better this season than it was last season.
It is better than...
Like, last season, everything was just cheap shit brought off eBay. And I think I might have mentioned this earlier on.
Yeah, you did, yeah.
But throughout the whole season, nothing looks like... Or not much looks like it's cheap shit from eBay or Amazon. Mm-hmm. Like, it actually looks like it would be in a film or TV show.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
So they have stepped it up in that aspect on this season.
Yeah. And I've wondered if maybe one of the reasons why they were able to Because if you look, there's actually a very limited cast in it.
That's true, actually.
Not much of a cast, so they're saving money on actors. Very set locations. Guinan's Bar, La Serena, the Chateau, the hospital centre.
Or even like the city, they don't have to build sets for that.
No, not nowadays. Especially when you see what they're doing with the Mandalorian and that. They don't need to just... Yeah. So they're probably saving themselves a fair bit of money in that respect. They've certainly saved themselves money on writing, because they haven't got any writers.
I think the problem is they've got too many writers.
Yeah.
Jurati says to the Borg Queen, like, you lose in every version of reality, basically. And shows her, like, all of the Borg ships blowing up and stuff. But then there's an episode in Next Generation called Parallels, where the Borg win. Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Riker's like, they're everywhere. The Federation's gone. We're beaten and all this kind of thing. Yeah.
But then, as well, how does she convince her so easily to?
Well, because she's lonely.
Yeah, like
lonely. Oh, so lonely.
It's like the Borg Queen's lonely because she's not got the collective or anything. But then they've like twisted that as if she's like a lonely person and she needs a friend. And like Jurati's lonely and needs a friend as well. So she's like, let's be friends together and make a lovely communist collective.
It is a communist collective. It absolutely is, because it's now like I said to you, it's like Klaus Schwab, isn't it, with the Great Reset? You will have nothing and you will be happy. That's basically what they're doing. It's like saying, oh, come join us. You've got no individuality. Well, you will, because didn't they say, oh, 7 can be our first one of the new kind?
They're basically like chucking a couple of implants on you.
Yeah.
And then they're like, you're one of us.
Yeah.
It makes
but when they turn up in episode 1, which goes back to it again in episode 10, they're firing at all the bloody ships and attacking all the people and that. And I know 7 said, oh, they're only stunning them, they're not shooting.
Yeah.
But that's still not a nice way to approach people, isn't it? And they just turn up and say, I know we're the Borg, but we're decent now, and we're nice people, and we don't want to attack you. And we know we've got this track record and all that, but just bear with us, we won't use that multiple voice thing to make everything sound really scary and that. We'll use individual voices, No, they don't do that.
Jurati was not as annoying this season. I will give it that. But her entire plotline was shit. Like, her whole one, it was the worst one.
Oh, totally. I mean, we missed the getting up on stage. We can come back to the Borg. But yeah, let's finish our point on that first, because how easily the Borg suddenly are just basically defeated and become good. You look at how many times they came close to winning, the Borg did. And obviously in some universes they did win. They were virtually unstoppable. They'd stop them for a bit, but then they'd find a way around it and then carry on. And certainly not one individual. Hugh broke up the collective of that one ship, but not the whole Borg collective. 7 obviously managed to get away and regain her individuality, but she couldn't affect the collective. Locutus couldn't affect the collective. Janeway tried to do things in the end of Voyager and all that, but still never completely defeated the Borg. That one woman has got her arse in her hands about the fact that she hasn't got a love life and things like that, Yeah, it seems to just turn the tide completely.
It was weird.
It is about that thing of bestest ever, isn't it? It's putting that female character on that pedestal and saying, well, look what this woman's done.
But it all just, like, her whole plot line just... That whole Borg plot didn't even need to be there.
No.
It seemed like it was just chucked in as, like, a cliffhanger for the end of the first episode.
Yeah.
Like, the actual whole story was, like, Q sending them to the past. Because even when they go back to the present at the end, it's only, like, 5 minutes where they, like, form the big shield thing.
Yeah.
And then...
What's that about either? No explanation. That is your quote, isn't it?
Yeah.
Another fucking anomaly.
Another fucking anomaly.
Yeah.
Literally.
And there's no explanation for it, really, other than them saying, oh, we've got this thing going on out there and there's some dangerous things and that. Presumably that's... I'm wondering if maybe that's where they're going with season 3, but I don't know. Who knows?
But, the Jurati Borg is in the Federation now, so...
What the hell was going on with that CGI of her head? I think they changed the storyline somewhere in the season. That was supposed to be somebody else. Because it looks like they've stuck her head over the top, badly CGI wrapped around her face, onto something.
Yeah.
Terrible CGI, isn't it?
It looked bad. Even all the, like, the weird, like, wire things in her skin looked bad.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't look good.
It looked like a really early days deep fake, didn't it? Like when the first technology was first started to... Because it looked like a face kept moving around on the... Like, it's like the head was moving too fast for the CGI to keep up with it, and you can see like some sort of flickering sort of...
When the helmet came off, I did laugh a little bit.
Yeah.
That whole bit, it seemed like it didn't need to be there, and they just had the Borg Queen there the whole time just to be like, look guys, we've got that.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and it was never really about having the Borg Queen. It was about elevating Jurati to this. I mean, again, case in point here, Mercy is not a Borg quality; it's a Jurati quality. That's Seven and Raffi talking about Jurati. So Mercy was what Jurati was thinking about while she was going on all those murderous killing sprees in season 1 and in season 2 for that matter. I mean, people would argue, oh no, she was possessed by an alien consciousness, she was possessed by the Borg Queen, but I do not think of Jurati and Mercy in the same sentence. I really don't. Especially
too busy eating car batteries.
Yeah, and killing, what's his name, bloody Hans Klopek. That's a deep cut for people who love the film The Burbs, because that's how that bar patron bloke looks exactly like that character in that film. Yeah, it leaves him for dead. I mean, them pair are arguing over their love life over the top of a dead body as well. Here's another one. They asked the bar owner which way Jurati went when she smashed the window, right? And she left the bar to fuck Hans Klopek or whatever his name was.
Yeah.
So it was night time when she left the bar. It's now morning, so let's be generous and let's say at least 4 or 6 hours since she left the bar, right? You wouldn't just say, oh, she went that way. So when she left fucking hours ago, I don't know where she is now. She went that way, but she's probably halfway across Los Angeles now.
And she's actually around the corner.
And she's there eating fucking car batteries.
Well, in all fairness, I think it would take quite a while to eat a car battery.
Well, 6 hours.
Well, she ate like
well, 4.
She's got
Borg in her now,
she ate 4 car batteries. Yeah. I think it would take me like 6 hours to eat 4 car batteries.
And more to the point as well, they got a fucking tricorder in their hand. Why didn't they just scan for Borg signals or something instead of asking the bar owner where she was?
No, they said some bullshit thing.
Did
like,
they?
Because she hasn't got.
I thought they might have done.
She hasn't got the like nano machines.
Yeah.
She they can't track her or something. I don't know. It's bullshit.
Yeah.
It's bullshit.
Yeah. That whole section of that is crazy. I mean, the fact that Raffi and Seven are arguing over this dead body about their relationship and whatnot. I mean, thinking priorities here, folks. You know, you got a Borg Queen on the loose in the city. I mean, that is a potential real temporal time changer, isn't it? Having a Borg Queen.
Literally.
And that's overlooked.
They play that like it's going to be such a big thing,
Yeah.
but they resolve it so quick.
And in episode 9 as well, it's just kind of... I know they briefly brought back Jurati Borg Queen in episode 10, but that plot line was done in episode 9. It was pretty much done. You could argue that it was done before that, really.
This season should have been like 6 episodes long.
Yeah.
Like, cut out the party episode, because...
Yeah, we'll cover the party as well, because
that one was shit. The whole episode is the party and it's shit. The episode where Picard's in a coma seems like most of it seems pointless, because the episode where you 9, I think 9, you basically see the same stuff again, but just cut down a little bit.
Yes,
like it's like
it goes back to that again, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The little things that they didn't resolve in that episode.
Except you don't see Gaius Baltar very much.
Yeah. I did wonder, you know, because he's got in a Deep Space Nine uniform. I did wonder at one point maybe whether they were going to like get somebody like Dr. Bashir, the actor Alexander Siddig, to play it or something like that.
Yeah.
So it almost looked like they were going for that vibe.
It did a bit,
but
yeah.
Then, interesting, people have pointed out on the internet as well a lot of ripping off Battlestar Galactica themes, you know, with the red dress, blonde hair, 6, and the fact that she's got like a voice talking behind her kind of thing, which is like 7 and Baltar, the 6 and Baltar paradigm, and then you've got James Callis in it as well. So,
true.
riffing
Yeah,
on
that's true,
Battlestar.
actually.
I mean, they're not afraid to rip things off, are they? In Star Trek Picard. Let's face it. I mean, they ripped off big time last season, didn't they? With what was that computer game?
Mass
Mass
Effect.
Effect.
The entire thing is just Mass Effect. Like, even the one, like, in Picard's head, like, I don't know, you know, I've finished Deep Space Nine now. So
we will get round to doing it.
So, well, what was the episode name? The one where they go to Sloane's head.
Oh, is it Extreme Measures?
Extreme Measures is so much better.
Yeah.
They should have done something like that.
Yeah.
What?
Brilliant.
Oh
story.
God, why?
Yeah.
I love Extreme Measures.
Yeah.
But it should have been something like that.
It should have
instead.
been. Yeah.
Not just like, or do it just that episode on its own, and don't bring it up loads again later.
Yeah.
But then it turns out that episode and then the bit in episode 9 about his mum is actually the entire reason for the season.
It's certainly Picard's arc.
Well,
without that, he's got nothing to do in the season.
Well, that's that Q says that's the reason why he took him back, basically.
Kudos as well to Red Letter Media for pointing out that Picard says his mum hung herself when the correct use of that term in that sentence should have been hanged herself. The writers can't even make a proper sentence up, can they? Case in point, we talked about this thing of people with mental health issues and all that kind of thing. In that two-parter, past tense in Deep Space Nine, Bashir implied heavily, he didn't say it outright, but he implied heavily that mental health issues were readily and easily treatable in the 24th century. Why then was Picard's mum the way she was? I mean, are we to assume that his dad didn't want her treated? But it seemed as though he did want her. He'd rather lock her in a room than get her some help.
Well, I guess that was because she got to the point where she was too far.
I don't know, because in past tense you've got that chap who's like, he's got his pen, hasn't he, and he's drawing on somebody's arm, isn't it? You know, and Picard says there's no reason for people to be living like this. He says there's in the 24th century he actually says even today there's some very readily available medication that can help people like that. Again, it's one of those things that I feel like it was an ego thing for Patrick Stewart. He wanted some big chunky thing to do that wasn't space battles, because he doesn't like Star Trek, let's face it. It's a paycheck to him. I know that's very controversial to say that, but certainly at this point in his life, he frowns on Star Trek. He just doesn't like the whole thing.
The thing is, as well, Patrick Stewart is a brilliant actor.
He is.
He's a really brilliant actor.
As a person, he's a fucking arsehole. But you know,
he just doesn't seem like he's bringing much to this.
No.
Like, he's just...
Yeah.
He's Adam Sandlering.
Yeah.
He's just showing...
Ruffy.
He's just showing up.
Where's Elnor? Elnor!
Elnor got his redemption. He got to live again.
Yeah. But I almost expect him to start dribbling. You know, I mean, I'm not age bashing, but I mean, come on. Is he playing Picard like this, or is that how he is now, Patrick Stewart? I don't know. And that little tiny clip of him in the trailer for Multiverse of Madness,
Yeah,
he sounds, it's quite sort of like got more energy to the way he's speaking. He's speaking quite quickly, you know. He's like, but in Picard is, I need to sleep now. I need my nap.
Oh yeah, he's like, I've noticed, he just stays at the same tone.
It's
like 95% of
it's
the
like,
time.
I think it's almost like he's phoning it. It's a combination of, he's 90 or 98 years old or whatever, you know.
I think he's like 80 or something.
Yeah, Picard is 90.
Oh, Picard is like 90 something.
Yeah, something like that, you know. It's a combination of that and can I get through to the end of the day so I can go and spend some more of my paycheck, you know, from the last season, you know. It's pretty much like that. And let's have a bit of ego stroking in by putting a plot in about, you know, my mum's was traumatised, and that traumatised me so much so that I couldn't even remember it. I mean, well, what's that all about? The fact that he can't even remember it until... And more to the point...
He can't remember it, but it stops him from loving anyone.
And he only starts remembering it when he gets smacked over by a car. But he's a robot. They say he's in a coma, but he's still got brain activity going on. What's all that about? I mean, they take him to the... That's another thing. They take him to the Teresa's hospital, and they say something about using the bio bed, and Rios is immediately like, "Oh no, we need to take him to the clinic."
I need to see my mistress.
Well, yeah, that's probably why. But that biobed would have been the best thing you could have used at that point in time to figure out what the fuck was going on. But no, they take him to a place. It's not even a proper hospital. It's just like treating scrapes and probably something a bit more involved than that. But anyway, but also again, as I mentioned before, it's recently been raided by ICE. Aren't they keeping an eye on that place and see whether Rios comes back again? I mean, he's in there every other bloody 5 minutes. After that,
a big problem with that bit as well is Picard's in there. She's like, "Oh, what's going on?" She goes out. She comes back in and sees they're like mind linked or whatever. And then Rios is like, just whips out this like futuristic technology that she's never seen before in her life. He's like, "Use it,"
and he gives it to yeah.
He's like
the tricorder thing as well. That thing for the head. And she's.
He's like, "I don't know how to use it. You did."
Yeah, you should know how to use a fucking tricorder. Everybody in Star Trek knows how to use a tricorder. Yeah. And she uses it straight away, doesn't she? She knows exactly how to fit it on, and
to be fair, it didn't look particularly different. No, like you just put it on and pressed go.
Yeah, I suppose so.
But still, and then he takes her to the ship. He takes her and her kid's like, "Hey, look at this ship," and then the little kid's just like, "Look at this, look at the computer pad."
I know.
Picard's vineyard is always in darkness, basically.
Pretty much, yeah. Or dusky. Yeah.
If it's day in LA.
Before you carry on, can I just mention something? That cloaking device is fucking shit on La Serena. Every other cloaking device I've seen on Star Trek, the ship is invisible. That thing, you can still see the shape of it. Sorry, yeah, I just got to mention that one. You mentioned that. Yeah, so darkness, yeah, you're absolutely right, yeah.
Obviously, if it's day in LA, it would be night in...
something to that effect, yeah.
However, it'll be night in LA and night in France.
Yeah, and you're right. It goes. There's one time where it goes from night to day in LA, and another one where it goes from night in France to night in LA.
Yeah.
So yeah,
France is on a different planet or something.
Time loop. Yeah. Yeah. Just very, very briefly, because we're jumping all over the place. I've got 2 or 3 little things here I wanted to talk about. Talon, I keep wanting to call her Laris.
She basically is.
She's a Romulan. She's not a time traveller. She's not some sort of higher being. I know that it's established in episode 10 that they work for the Travellers, but they're not. She's just a Romulan. What's that business of her to keep turning eyes white all the time and ability to possess people? What's that about? Do you have any thoughts on that one?
Not a clue. Not a clue. It says she doesn't time travel, but she's got futuristic technology and stuff as well.
Yeah.
I guess maybe she's just given it.
I mean, if she can possess people, why can't she possess those soldiers that are attacking the chateau? Or get them to walk away, or get them to shoot each other?
Maybe it's because they're like
shoot soon
or something.
Maybe.
I don't know.
But soon,
yeah.
So
I've got a thing with Soon as well. Sort of Soon. In the last episode, Soon is going to use... If he can't kill Renee, he's going to use drones to destroy the rocket. Mm-hmm. Right? They say at the party episode that the technology is basically pathetic. They can break into it or whatever super duper quick. But they get this little control pad for the drones and they're like...
Yeah.
They literally can't get control of it. They have to rewire it and stuff.
Yeah.
Why was he given some super advanced technology or something? It looked on theme with everything else in the lab.
It seemed to be, didn't it? Yeah.
Why suddenly? And they didn't even give it 7 to do.
When they re-Borgify 7 of 9 after she's prodded in the stomach.
Jurati Borg Queen, heals her with implants or whatever, but puts the implants exactly where they were before, around her eye. And why? She could have just put one in a chest or whatever to heal.
They are identical, yeah.
They're exactly identical.
Yeah.
Why?
They were like that for a reason. Say the EMH didn't in Voyager. He couldn't remove them all, and so I don't know. I've got one here. The Borg Queen is allowed to leave Earth with La Serena in episode 9, and she just leaves Picard and the gang there without any way to leave the 21st century once they've corrected the timeline. They don't know at that point that Q's going to send them home again.
No.
So, I mean, there is a throwaway line in episode 10 where they say, "Oh, so we're staying here now, we're stuck here, what are we going to do with the rest of our lives," and all that kind of thing. But, I remember I think it was, what was it called? Future's End, the 2-parter of Voyager, where they're faced with the possibility of being stuck there, and Chakotay says, "I'm going to find a little quiet corner of New Zealand or somewhere like that." And
well, that's literally what they'd have to do. They'd have to go live on like caves or like some random island, so they don't destroy time.
Yeah, I mean Rios doesn't do that, obviously.
No, he becomes like one of Earth's pioneers or something.
Yeah. You wanted to talk about Elnor a little bit, holographic Elnor.
So yeah, holographic Elnor somehow like he's the lock on the systems. When he unlocks it, he does this weird eye thing. I don't know. So he's looking through the armory, and he's like, "Pistol? Nah."
I mean, that's a point actually.
A big rifle?
Yeah, that's a point making actually is that he's got a mobile emitter like the Doctor in Voyager. Really, the only way you'd damage that hologram was to shoot the immobile emitter.
Yeah.
So bullets aren't going to be a problem for him, or phaser fire. No. So, but he keeps dodging the bullets and keeps hiding from them and that. So, but then he goes and looks for something else, doesn't he?
Yeah, he opens a locker and sees a sword, and it's his sword from season 1. But that wouldn't be there because he didn't have it.
Yeah, this is Lacerina from the Confederation.
Because he was just some random terrorist or something in this version of reality.
And when they captured him in the Confederation, he didn't have a sword.
He didn't have a sword, but somehow it's magically on the ship.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. The season's full of it, isn't it? It's full of these things. It really is.
It's full of the little things, but there's even big ones as well.
Oh yeah, we talked about how specific characters are given these things to make them look big. So a perfect example of that is the Jurati singing in the gala.
Yeah.
Isn't it? So we, I mean, I've got here. I don't know. You can think of any other things as well. So they cut the power.
They do.
And then she's like on this balcony thing, and this spotlight comes on her. So where's the power for that, first of all? Who got the spotlights working just as she was there to start singing? How did the light operator know that she was going to sing?
And why was it above her directly?
Yeah. The band.
Yeah.
They know the song.
Yeah.
They know the song that she's going to do. They know what key she's going to sing it in. They know what tempo she's going to sing it in. They're straight in there. I mean, fucking great band. If you wouldn't want them for your party, wouldn't you? So how did they know what key or tempo? And what if they turned around and just said, "What the fuck are you? Get off the stage." Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Why did security not arrest her?
Yeah.
You know, where was Rios, Seven, Raffi, and Talon while she was singing? That's a good point as well, because they just seem to vanish.
No, they do actually, because Picard goes away.
Picard goes to find Rene, and I think Talon goes with him briefly, and then she disappears.
So the only two people, the rest of them,
is Rios.
I think they just stood by the bar, and then suddenly maybe they all had a toilet break. They're just sat on the toilet, and it goes dark. They're like, "Oh,
I mean that whole...
Where's the paper?
Where's the paper?
Where's the paper? Where's the paper?"
So, Guinan's bar. This is another one that's interesting. Are we honestly to believe that Guinan owned the same bar in Los Angeles for almost 500 years?
Meanwhile, the nuclear war.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I mean, you could argue that it was rebuilt from scratch after the nuclear war of the mid-21st century or whatever. But, it's the same bar 500 years in the future. Who looked after it while she was fleeing from the Borg invasion of her homeworld? You know, when she was on the Lakul transport. Who was looking after it while she was on Enterprise D for at least 7 years? If she owned it, did she get rid of it? Then she reacquire it 500 years later? If she did, that was very fortunate. Like you say, did it get destroyed in the war? And also, more to the point, it was in that same place called 10 Forward in 2024. She didn't go onto Enterprise D and say to them, "Right, I want a bar on deck 10 on the forward section of the ship so it can be called 10 Forward because I've got a bar in Los Angeles called 10 Forward."
Coincidence.
The assumption is that she called the bar 10 Forward because it was named after the bar on the Enterprise.
Yeah.
But in 2024 it's called centuries before she was even on. So what's all that about?
So this little James Bond scene where he reveals his evil plans, and it's a shame they didn't have a cat for it as well. But he reveals his evil plans.
Yeah, Rios tells him about the weapon blowing up.
Rios is like, the weapon is actually DNA coded to explode if it's operated by the wrong person. So what does he do? He just throws it at them.
Yeah. And if they hadn't said anything, then they'd have sorted him out. It wouldn't have been an issue, would he?
Oh,
yeah.
There's so many times where this series could have just ended earlier.
Oh yeah. I started to notice that from about episode 4 or 5 onwards. They could just do that one thing there, and that would just tie up the story arc.
Yeah.
Picard suffering from claustrophobia, really. There's very few clues of that in the 7 seasons of Next Generation. There's one exception in Night Terrors episode where Picard's having this hallucination and the turbo lift starts to close in on him and he goes, ah! Like this, you know. But there's episode Disaster and he's trapped in the turbo lift with 3 children and he has to help them. This turbo lift like shoots down and they're on top of it, tied up on cables and that. He rescues the 3 kids, gets them to safety, but no indication whatsoever that he's suffering from claustrophobia.
Yeah.
But that's heavily implied, isn't it, for this season, that he suffers from claustrophobia and that. I know they say it's got to do with those tunnels underneath with his mom and all that, but I don't know. What about Brent Spiner's lack of genetic diversity in his family? That was another one we talked about, didn't we? Every character he's ever played, I know it's to use the same actor, but
they all look
identical, don't they?
Yeah.
Another one I picked up on in the last episode is, how does the Borg Queen know that there needs to be 2 Rene Picards after she's gone?
Because the plot needed that.
Because the plot needed to. Yeah. Oh, that's what I put here. Plot convenience. Yeah. I mean, she wouldn't know that because she'd gone in that point in time. I mean, she could have looked it up in a history book or something. I don't know. No, actually, that wouldn't have been documented, would it?
No.
Wouldn't have been documented then, and it certainly wouldn't have got documented until they returned back to the present.
The only person who saw it anyway was Picard.
Yeah. Talon dies, and I don't know if you could pick up on an answer to this one, but right, you've got a dead Romulan. What did they do with her body?
No, I was thinking that as well.
Because surely somebody finding a dead alien body, it's like the Roswell autopsy.
I guess, mate.
Did he? Because she died at the Europa mission headquarters thing. Did it show you where her body went from there? No. Did he beam away with her or something, or did he just leave? You didn't
see.
You don't know.
You just saw her like die, and then that was it for there.
Right. Yeah, it's just another one, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just another one. I mean, we could go on and on. I think what we'll do is we'll start wrapping some of these up now because it's so I'll put about how did Wesley Crusher, welcome to the Travellers. I thought that line was so fucking cringy. I mean, sounds like the Travelling Wilburys, the band. Welcome to the Travelling Wilburys. It's just, I love the way you said it. Welcome to the Travellers. I mean, that was bad. That was really cringy, having him in that. I mean, he's a bottom feeder anyway. Will Wheatness, he's been desperate to get anything. Anything. Cue to Picard, you are now unshackled from the past. So is that the past of Star Trek? Because they obviously don't care about continuity, do they?
No. So there's a lot of problems with the Q.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Because there's a lot of times where, like, he tries to click his fingers to make Renee like too scared to go on the flight.
Mm-hmm.
Then he tries to get Soon to kill her, like run her over.
Yeah.
But then it turns out there's a bunch of other stuff as well where he tries to like do irreversible damage.
Yeah.
But at the end, it turns out it was like one last thing for Picard's benefit because he actually like really likes Picard and like he doesn't want to die alone or anything like that. But it doesn't make sense because there's stuff earlier on. Now, I did kind of like the bit where he was like, "I liked you all along," because it's like. He tormented with him, but he kept going back to him. So I did kind of like him admitting, like
it swings and roundabouts. That is, and I think one of the few moments that was good about this season was the moment where, like, basically give each other a hug, sort of thing. Yeah, you know.
I did like that.
I did like that. I'd loathe to admit it, but I did actually like that. It's just weird. It's like he says, he said to Laris, was it? I think it was I think it might have been Laris actually. There are moments in our lives. Oh yeah, there are moments in our life. Did I mention that?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, there are moments in our life. He doesn't say lives or life.
Yeah, live.
So was it just him delivering the line badly, or was it the writers again? But yeah, that whole thing at the end there of like living your life and all that. I mean, that could have been done in a good way, but it's so contrived, isn't it? It's like half of what Q does in the season doesn't seem to match up that he really cares about him, does it?
No.
I mean, he always gets him killed, God knows how many times. Okay then, so I think I'm sure there's going to be many other things we'll think of after we've done this video, but you know, I mean, where are we now? It was just crazy,
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, thoughts. What did you? Go on, let's start with you, because you're probably going to be a bit different from me on this.
Well, yeah, because a lot of the stuff of me not knowing Star Trek lore and contradictions and
But I'm
stuff.
saying that though, you picked up on a lot of things that are just general plot crap that just didn't make sense anyway, whether you knew Star Trek or not.
I think it's better than season 1 by a fair bit.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I think it's a fair bit better
would
than
agree
1.
with that. But yeah, I would agree with that.
It's kind of the same as season 1 for me, except like because I kind of enjoyed season 1 for a bit up until I think it was about episode 6, and it's sort of the same here. Like episode 6, I was enjoying it up to 6, and this Gala was shit, and then I got bored for a bit, and like I don't know, there was bits that I liked, but there was like boring stuff. So
yeah, I think I'm with you on that, but I kind of soured much earlier.
Yeah. Certainly
from episode 4 onwards. I started to feel that way a little bit at episode 3, but it wasn't majorly bad. I think I gave that like a 3, didn't I? Or something when I rated it.
That was a bit of a non-episode, though, if I remember.
I think it's probably because there wasn't all that much wrong with it, and it wasn't that offensive.
Yeah.
And episode 1 and 2, for all the fact that there was things that I took issue with, it did seem to start quite promisingly.
Yeah.
But it unravelled. I think the major problem is if you look at what they're back in time actually doing. I mean, again, Renee Picard, she vanishes from episode 5, 6 onwards. 6.
Well, she's in quarantine.
Yeah, but we don't. I mean, they're talking about her a little bit, but hardly ever talk about her. She doesn't come back again until episode 10. She's out of it pretty much.
But I mean, I guess they kind of think they fixed it because she went. They were like, "Oh yeah, we need to get her in quarantine." They did get her in quarantine, and they were like, "Oh okay, it's safe now. It's all done."
But my problem with it was at that point. Then the whole story emphasis seems to shift over to Jurati and the Borg Queen, and you think that's what the issue with time is.
And then it's
even though it's already clearly established that it's to do with the Europa mission.
Yeah.
But it seems to be, they've subverted our expectations. They're going with that instead. And then I thought, maybe that's the reason why we're not seeing it. And maybe the Borg will get some sort of spaceship, and then they'll do a bit like rip off First Contact, where they fire on the Europa rocket in from orbit or something.
Yeah.
And so the Borg issue is the problem, not so much the, But no, they didn't do that. I mean, they took the Borg thing out of the equation in episode 9. Picard's flashback things, visions and all that was a huge part of it.
That was a lot of the series.
A hell of a lot. I mean, Raffi and Seven got very little to do this season.
To be honest, I'm quite thankful Raffi
well, yeah,
didn't
because
get
she was really
Raffi
annoying.
was so
really
annoying.
Bad.
Yeah.
I mean, she was badly written in season 1, but far worse in season 2. She started well in the first episode.
Yeah.
It was total character change. Out of nowhere. I mean, you could argue that it's because Elnor died, and a real waste of Q. Because if you look at his screen time, if you look at how much he's actually in it,
it's barely anything.
It's hardly anything. And he's the only one I find, even of like Brent Spiner and Patrick Stewart, even Whoopi Goldberg, because I felt like she was just phoning it in a little bit. He's the only actor in it that gave his everything in every scene he had.
Yeah.
There was not a moment where John Delancey wasn't giving his A game.
Yeah.
Really good.
He was great.
Really good. That principally is where I give my points for this season.
Yeah.
So, anything else you wanted to say about that then at that point? I mean,
I don't even know, my mind's like frazzled from everything we talked about.
Well, do you think maybe we could give it a rating out of 10, an overall season rating out of 10?
That's quite hard because
that's a tough one, isn't it? Because there's a lot of peaks and valleys with this. It's
half of it I did quite like, but then there's other stuff that I thought was really like. I mean, I suppose maybe like a 6 for the whole season. Probably a 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna go around about the 3 region because I'd some 2.53 maybe. So, do you think it succeeded in doing what it was doing with its story arc? I personally don't. I think that the story arc was very weak. could have been wrapped up in a couple of episodes.
I think the problem is, yeah, they've got something that could have been a movie or like a long, like maybe 6-episode series or something. But it's like they had 2 ideas. They were like, okay, we're going to get them in the past, but are we going to do a Borg story?
Yeah.
Or are we going to do a Q story?
Yeah.
With Renee Picard and that.
And you've also got the Picard and his mom story.
Yeah. And they were just like, oh, we'll do a bit of this, a bit of this, a bit of this.
And none of them are really connected to each other.
No, not really.
They exist almost completely independent.
Q and his mom.
The Corey thing and Dr. Soong.
Yeah.
That you could almost separate that as well.
Mm.
So I'm sure there's others if we thought about it. That's 4 distinct storylines that are only vaguely. Generally, Q tends to be the connecting factor, the connecting tissue between all of them. But outside of that, they exist on their own. They don't affect each other.
Borg are
totally separate.
They're like the main 2, and they're completely separate.
Yeah.
And if they'd have I think if the Borg weren't in it, it would have succeeded in what it was trying to do.
Yeah, possibly.
Or if the Q story wasn't in it,
Yeah.
it would have succeeded in what it was trying to do. But the fact that they've got 2, it's just like it's like at the end of like 6 to 7, they're basically like they've concluded the story.
Yeah.
Then it goes to this other story. That's actually not a big story like you thought it was going to be, and they're like, oh, the first one isn't actually done.
And I think I think when they sat down with Patrick Stewart as well, and they said, right, well, what is Picard in this story arc for this season? Right, his ancestor is the pilot of this ship. That really doesn't give Picard anything to do, but it just and there's a little bit of interaction between him and Q.
Yeah.
That's it.
That is, yeah.
So he's got an easy time of this season.
For a show called Picard as well.
He's barely in it. It's not even about him, really. So we'll create this claptrap storyline of his mum dying and spread it out over 3 episodes, maybe 4 tops. Just sprinkling it in and out. That story got nothing to do with any of the time travel stuff. Nothing, really.
Yeah. Actually,
just to give him something to do.
Actually, Alex Kurtzman said Star Trek was a political platform.
Oh, he did, yes. They've all said it.
So, it did succeed in what it was trying to do, to present a political message.
Well, you see, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying.
The actual story,
their politics.
Their politics, yeah.
But Star Trek always succeeded in being political but apolitical. It would just present you with a lot of things, usually both sides of the argument, or if it wasn't an argument, if it wasn't a duality to it, it was just an issue and an ethical story or morality tale. Something. Just kind of put it there and gave you all different ways of thinking about it without bashing you over the head.
I suppose, yeah.
And that's, you certainly wouldn't have had Guinan screaming and ranting and crying and condemning everybody and everything. I mean, it comes to something when Picard says he wants to be a queen about his mummy. I want to be a queen just like you. And he doesn't say I want to be a king. I mean, that's controversial in itself saying that, but it's there. Maybe he wanted to be the Borg queen. Maybe he wanted to be got to be really crude then. Something to do with the Borg queen. I mean, after all, you see it in First Contact, don't you? Who knows? Who knows where your mind could take you with these things? But yeah. So that's it then. Are we midway through it airing? They had the announcement that all the cast are coming back from Next Generation for season 3. Are you going to watch it?
I'll give it a try. I think this season was an improvement on the previous one, and I think maybe it will continue to improve a bit more. I think they need, if they're doing an overarching story again, which I assume they're going to, they need to set on one thing and not just do like a million different things. If they do that and write the original cast how they actually were in the Next Generation, then it could be good.
I think the problem I have with it is it rings in my ears that like the agendas that there are in the media, those words of Neil Postman, they ring in my ears with so many TV programmes. They always have done, but especially nowadays. And then you combine that with how they're determined to systematically destroy the canon of Star Trek You know, a bit like that line in Last Jedi, isn't it? What is it? Destroy the past, kill it if you have to. Is that the one? Kylo Ren line from Last Jedi?
I can't remember exactly what it is.
Yeah, something to that effect. And that's what they're doing with Star Trek. Borg Queen, Picard's past, Guinan, Dr. Soon's family arc, you know.
Yeah.
All those kinds of things. I mean, they've had multiple thrashings this season. And I can't help but think, I'm not in a place where I can't watch the old Star Trek anymore. I know a lot of people can't now. Yeah, I mean, Red Letter Media said that, and Mike said, you know, Rich says, I can still watch the old stuff, and Mike says, I'm starting to get there now, where I can't watch the old stuff, because I'm just seeing Picard's, you know, wants to be a queen, and his mom, and all this kind of thing, and Guinan can't make up her fucking mind what her name is, and what powers she's got, and where she got them from, and, you know, and it's that kind of thing, you know, it's how much more will they keep doing? You know, they really are dismantling all the things that people liked about these characters and these stories from the past, and turning them into, like you say, the political platform. It's not just a political platform. Star Trek has never been just a political platform. Star Trek's been many, many things, but it's never been just one thing. And it's becoming just one thing now.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. So I think we'll leave it there then. Is there anything else that you wanted to bring to the table before we wrap things up?
I don't know. I don't think so.
No. Okay. Well, we got there in the end, didn't we? Thank you so much. This has been a long video, and thank you so much for joining me for it. But I think we've covered some really good stuff. Kind of sums up a lot of stuff that we had scattered about a lot of episodes of Star Trek Discovery when we did season 3. Whereas we've condensed so much of this into one. I find it less painful to do it like this, to be honest. I mean, there was genuine reasons why we couldn't do it.
No, yeah.
But this is less painful than revisiting it every week.
It also helps that this show isn't as painful as Discovery.
No, I will give them that much. I mean, a lot of people will argue and say this is worse, because at least with Discovery, they haven't really trashed old canon, other than Spock and Pike, maybe, and a bit of Sarek and that. But they've trash so much.
Well, I haven't even seen season 4 of Discovery. I watched the first episode and they were like, an anomaly! I was like, oh, fuck off. And I just
at least you got your anomaly.
I got my anomaly. There's been a few this season, but not as many.
Yeah, another one in episode 10 just turned up.
I roll my eyes every time. I'm just like...
I can imagine what you're like. It's fucking another one!
It's every single season of new Star Trek.
It is. Yeah,
has had
pretty
a
much,
big evil anomaly thing.
Yeah. Some galactic, space-wide, sector-wide.
And if it's not that, it's an AI.
Yeah, or an AI. Yeah. That's a good point worth mentioning as well, briefly, is the whole transhumanism thing to Star Trek now. Lean heavily on the whole transhumanism thing. And I know a lot of societies going that way. It's something we need to be very, very worried about. Very worried about, actually. But... yeah, they've leaned heavily on that with... I mean, Picard's effective, if not non-biological now, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a robot, basically.
Yeah. And the whole emphasis of this was about cloning, assimilation with Borg, turning the Borg into something good as well. I mean, that's right up transhumanism street, because the Borg have always been something to be frightened of, terrified of, losing your individuality. Not anymore now. You can be a communist Borg now. You know, you can have your individuality intact. You won't have anything, you won't be free. But, you know, these messages, you have to wonder what these messages are, what they're trying to say, don't you? Yeah.
I don't think they know what they're trying to say.
No, I don't think they know. No. All right then, so thank you so much for joining me for this. It's been great. So, we'll see what comes next. Life taking us in strange directions at the moment, but we'll definitely get onto some more. We're going to finish up the Deep Space Nine one, aren't we?
We do, because I've done.
Yeah. And we've got another one that we've got in, an interesting one. We're not going to spoil it here, but something that we're thinking about trying out to something a little bit different. Beyond that, at the moment, life just keeps throwing curveballs at us, doesn't it? So, but with that, I'll just say thank you so much for joining us. Take care of yourself. Please remember to like, share and subscribe if you can. Truly, 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 truly appreciate it. It's great stuff if you can. And Dan and I will see you again very, very soon. Bye.
Yes, bye.